Okay, so somebody remind me of our big 3 stimuli that plants do something very obvious in response to. Mark?
Touch.
To touch. Man, you went with number 3. I like that. I respect that. And what do plants typically do in response to touch?
They grow towards it.
Grow towards it. Typically, plants will grow towards a touch stimulus, especially those plants that are vines and will wrap themselves around solid objects. Rick?
Oh, gravity.
Gravity. And what do plants do in response to gravity?
They go away from it.
They grow away from it. And so this works with a plant that's just planted right in the soil. It also works with a hanging plant. You can see this. If you hang a plant up, it will still grow away from gravity because the plants are not sensing touch with the soil. What they are sensing is the gravitational pull of the earth. And so this would be really interesting when we set up our colony on the moon and we start growing things there, and the gravitational pull of the moon is significantly less than the gravitational pull on Earth. It'll be interesting to see what happens with these plants that we bring to the moon.
Oh, we'll be able to plant stuff? Will that work?
I mean, we're going to have to bring Earth soil, or we're going to need to make Earth soil. Have you seen The Martian? And how he made some Earth soil on Mars. Now, Mars is very different than the moon. 1, its gravitational pull is significantly greater. 2, it has more atmosphere because the moon has almost no atmosphere. So does Mars, but at least Mars has something more than the moon. You can see there's some challenges. There's some challenges to growing things on the moon. Was that Matt Damon in The Martian? Yeah, I mean, he struggled. I always get Matt Damon and Mark Wahlberg confused.
Me too.
I don't know what it is. They look nothing alike. They really act nothing alike. But then one time they were in the same movie and it just ruined my entire life. Emma, you had your hand up?
Oh yeah, for the last one.
What is the last one?
Sunlight.
Number 1, sunlight. And what do plants do in response to sunlight? They grow towards it. Even plants that are adapted for very low amounts of light will still respond positively to sunlight. You're like, what kind of plants are adapted for very low light? Well, plants that grow on the floor inside of a really dense forest. Mark?
If plants, they you said they would grow away from gravity.
Yes.
So what?
Grow away from the gravitational pull. Yeah.
Wait, away from the gravitational pull. So,
yeah. So the gravitational pull is pulling towards the center of the Earth, so they grow away from the center of the Earth.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was getting confused. So where are they going up?
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And so you see this, like if you drive along the 14 freeway, I don't know why you would want to go up to the Antelope Valley. I live there and I don't want to go up there. But you can see this with plants growing out the side of where they've carved out the mountain. They come out the side and then shoot up because they're growing away from the gravitational pull of the Earth. Okay, and so it is cool. It is cool. By the way, my house is under contract, so y'all can pray that nothing falls apart and that our house sells, because the sooner our house sells, the sooner I can move here. And it would be really nice to be living here by the time we do the teacher feature, where we're doing a bowling tournament. I mean, it's going to be sick. The winner gets to face me. So it's going to be pretty fun. And how good am I? It depends on the day. It depends on the day.
What's your highest score?
Ever? 246.
Wow.
Yeah.
46.
So I did, however, one time I opened up a game with 6 consecutive strikes, and I was on pace for that 300, and I threw a double gutter in the 7th frame. I threw a double gutter, and then I still pulled out a 220.
Do you have a shirt with your name on it?
No, I'm not that cool.
It says like Mingles Bully.
No. Well, I'd have to say Dr. Mingle, right? Because, you know, I worked really hard. Yeah.
That was Selby.
Yeah.
Mr. Selby, what is my name? Dr. Selby. Thank you.
You know, I actually made my kids call me Dr. Dad for a while. Actually, I tried it just as a joke, and my wife said, "That's dumb. Don't say that again." I said, "Yes, ma'am." All right. So, okay. Somebody remind me of the 3 steps when you are on the receiving end of communication. Okay, what are the 3 steps when you are on the receiving end of communication. Tori.
Like electric.
Oh, so those are different types of communication. So, but you're right though. I need to describe what actual form of communication I'm referring to. So the 3 steps when you are on the receiving end of chemical communication. Step number 1. You're going with transduction, but that's step number 2.
Oh, transformation.
No, step number 1 is reception. Okay? Step number 1, your receptor binds that chemical signal. Yes? Oh, we've talked about this many times. Don't pretend like you don't know what I'm talking about. You all sound like my kids when I'm like, we've had this conversation before. We don't kick our brothers in the stomach. So
This chapter 39?
yeah, it's chapter 39, but it's also a previous chapter when we talked about signal transduction, cellular communication. And I don't remember what chapter that was. Maybe 22? Maybe 21? Maybe 20? Maybe it wasn't even in the 20s at all.
3 steps of...
Yeah, 3 steps of communication when you are on the receiving end of chemical communication. Step 1 is your receptor binds a chemical signal. Receptor binds a chemical signal.
Binding the ligand.
Yes, binding the ligand. See, you know what we're talking about. You're even using the lingo. You're like, you know, it's like telling somebody you don't speak a language in that language. And it's like, and with like the perfect accent. When you're like, hey, you're like, listen, bro, I don't speak English. It's like, what the bro? Really?
Wait, what was the first one?
So there's
So what is step 1?
Step 1, receptor binds the ligand.
Wait, so what are these steps for again?
Steps for being on the receiving end of chemical communication. Step number 1, receptor binds the ligand. Step number 2, transduce the signal. And that transduction translates the signal and it also amplifies that signal. So step 2 is transduction. And step number 3? Well, it can be, but it's response. You respond in some way to that chemical signal. So step number 1, receptor binds the ligand, whatever that chemical is. Step number 2, you transduce the signal. Step number 3, you respond. And that response is typically going to be transcribe something you're not currently transcribing, or modify your transcripts in a way you're not modifying them.
Do something new.
Do something new. Do something new or stop doing something old.
Be creative.
Do something new or stop doing something old. All right? Shh. Any questions? No questions? Y'all are so distracted you have no idea what's happening. Oh, Trinity.
It's like 3, like whatever's for being on the receiving end of what?
Of a chemical signal. Yep. Okay, chapter 40. It's called. Shh. Okay, please stop the conversations for my sanity, please. Basic principles of animal form and function. Okay, shh. Chapter 40, basic principles of animal form and function. And I told you last time, chapter 30, chapter 39 that is, was focusing on how plant cells respond to chemical communication. Chapter 40 is building us a foundation for how animal cells are going to respond to various types of communication. All right? Chapter 40. Chapter 40. Basic principles of animal form and function. Basic principles of animal form and function. Okay, a couple things I want to note right here, and you can just put this right into your notes just like this. Look at this. We have a specific term for the form of an animal. Do you know what that term is? I'll give you a hint. We teach a class at this present time where one of the words in that class name is the technical term for animal form. Anatomy.
Is it really?
Oh, it is. You bet it is.
That really makes sense.
So anatomy is our scientific term for animal form. Anatomy is our scientific term for animal form. Look at this. Look at this. We've got a scientific term for animal function, and it is the other word in the title of that course. Physiology.
I'll buy you a new one. You threw it away? Yeah. That's not a thing.
Shh. There's no getting that back. That's got to just... That's got to go into the trash, and you have to erase all memory of its existence. Okay. So we've got our term anatomy and our term physiology that represent what we're talking about with animal form and function. And so one other thing that I want you to know, and if your notes look just like this, that's awesome. If they don't, that's fine. It's not awesome. But anatomy determines physiology. The anatomy determines physiology. You like what I did there? Oh man, I like what I did there too. And so the form of an animal determines the function of an animal. And it's just such a wonderful reminder to you that whether you're talking about life at the cellular level, or you're talking about life at the tissue level, or life at the organ level, or life at the entire organism level, the form determines the function. The anatomy determines the physiology. Okay? All right? How's that sound? Sounds awesome, right? You're like, Dr. Engel, I'm really digging what you're doing here. Thank you. I really respect you, and so all of my side conversations are going to stop while you're talking, because I know that what you have to say is meaningful and it's going to transform my life.
Yes, all that.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, may I erase this? Okay, thank you.
Or was it?
We're on the move, people. Try to keep up. I said people.
People means I really do. It depends on who I'm with, but
And so take a look at this. This is a beautiful animal.
not cute.
This is a juvenile jackalope. It has not yet grown its antlers.
That's so cool.
Do y'all know? You all don't know about the jackalope because you didn't grow up in the Antelope Valley. So you know about the jackalope? So the jackalope is a mythological beast that few have seen, but many have heard of. And it is a cross between a jackrabbit and an antelope. And this right here, somebody snapped this picture, juvenile jackalope. Hasn't grown the antlers yet.
Wow.
Wait, that's actually a thing.
No.
Oh.
No, but it's fun. It's a mythological beast. But so if you go to some less than upstanding establishments in the Antelope Valley, which you're like, this sounds like every establishment in the Antelope Valley. Sometimes you'll see mounted jackrabbit heads with antelope antlers. They actually take like the antlers from a mule deer and put them onto a mounted jackrabbit head. That's pretty cool. Yeah.
That's like the thing in the like Lunchables commercial.
Oh yeah.
Oh, the jackalope?
The jackalope.
Okay, so when you look at this, like those are some big ears, right? And then you think about this in the context of the form determining the function or the anatomy determining the physiology. There's got to be a reason why this animal's got those big giant ears. And really, we only have a few options. I mean, really, we can boil it down to we can boil it down to three options. One is we can say it's just an anomaly, right? It maybe came about due to genetic drift, right? Which you remember our mechanisms of evolutionary change. Yeah. Yes? It's been a while, but we've got natural selection, we've got sexual selection, we've got genetic drift, we've got mutation, and we've got gene flow. You have gene flow?
Yeah. She's laughing at me. Okay.
Tori.
She said
When's the first time when we sing that song?
Is it? I think it's April 3rd. I think it's next Friday. April 13th is when they, or that would be April 12th. We're gonna practice it, and I'm guessing that Mr. Freeman is gonna make copies for everybody. No doubt.
Are you gonna sing with us? Are we
Yeah.
gonna dress up?
Um.
Oh my gosh, can we all be Fiddler Prize?
No.
It depends on. I have to say this. It depends on what time the corporate time is. But if it's before I need to be over at Masters, I will come in and sing with you. I have no idea. I've never done corporate time before. I don't. Shh. I don't know how anything works. I am not the person to ask of how does this work because I've never been here before. Okay.
Just like this.
So we have 3 options for why the jackrabbit looks like this. Option number 1 is it's a genetic anomaly, right? It's due to genetic drift. It really has no value to the jackrabbit. It's just kind of an accident.
Like this is an anomaly.
The appendix is not. We can talk about the appendix another time, though. The second one is having big giant ears like this make the jackrabbit better able to secure mates, right? Female jackrabbits, maybe we should call them Jill rabbits, right? You like that? Female, we'll call them Jill rabbits. The Jill rabbits, they like males with really long ears for some reason, okay? And then, or the third option is these big ears. These big ears are they serve a functional advantage. Where do jackrabbits live? The desert. And somebody tell me about the desert.
The coyotes.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's lots of things that want to eat them. And so, yeah, I mean, this is obviously going to be helpful for increasing their auditory acuity. Jade, it is hot. Oh, boy. Jade picked up on something really important. Yes, this is going to help them to hear better, and there are plenty of things that would love to eat a jackrabbit, including myself. But look at how vascular these ears are. Do you see that?
Yeah.
That's an indication that we're dealing with heat exchange here. That this is a way in which these jackrabbits can get rid of a lot of excess heat that's going to build up. Yeah.
Can they work as shade?
Yeah.
Like an umbrella?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Emma.
Really good
Like,
question.
when animals dig in the ground, how does dirt not get in their ears? Like,
Why
or like, does it and it just doesn't?
Oh, sure, and then they just shake it out.
Oh, like, what if it goes like all the way in? Like,
Well, I mean, so animals that, I'll tell you this. Animals that are well adapted for burrowing, they either don't have external ears at all, like a lot of moles don't have external ears, or they have the ability to, they push down as their face burrows in, their ears push down and almost seal it off. Yeah, but a lot of mammals that burrow don't have external ears. And mammals are about the only animals that have external ears. Okay. All right. Shh. So something we've talked about before, many times, the relationship between surface area and volume. Somebody remind me of the relationship between surface area and volume in the context of what we just saw with that jackrabbit. Or it might have been a Jill rabbit, I don't know. If it was male or female. As surface area increases, as surface area, so let's do this. As volume increases, what happens to the amount of surface area you have relative to your volume? Decreases. I don't know what happened there.
Why would it
So, no, the amount of surface area the amount of surface area you have relative to your volume decreases as volume increases.
why?
Yeah.
So I got it right.
Let's see.
Oh no, that does make sense. Because if you like have a lot of like indents, you really have some sort of surface area dents. Like a,
So we have a 1 centimeter cube here. Yes?
okay.
We have a you should draw this. We have a 1 centimeter cube. The surface area of this cube would be what?
I don't know.
Each face is 1 square centimeter. We have how many faces in a cube? We have 6. So the surface area is 6 centimeters squared. Geometry, baby. It's back. It is back. Okay. Shh. What is the volume of this cube, someone? 1. What? 1 centimeter cubed.
Yeah.
Now, and no, this is not drawn to scale, okay? Leave me alone. Okay, we have a cube that is 2 centimeters on every edge. What is the surface area of this cube?
8. Oh, no, it's wait. It's 4 times 6. 24. It's 24. 80.
The surface area of this cube is 24 centimeters squared. Each face is 2 times 2. 2 times 2 is 4. There are 6 faces, so our total surface area is 24 centimeters squared. What is the volume of this? 8 cubic centimeters. Now, surface area to volume ratio. Surface area to volume, 6 to 1 here. Yes? Surface area to volume ratio, 6 to 1. What's the surface area to volume ratio here?
3 to 1.
3 to 1.
Whoa.
As your volume increases, your surface area also increases, but much more slowly than the volume does, because the volume is a cubic factor and surface area is a square factor, right? And if you cube something, that's going to grow much more quickly than squaring something. The same is true for mass, by the way. As the mass of an object increases, its surface area increases as well, unless you're just really packing on a lot more density, but the surface area grows more slowly than the mass does. What issue does this present? The surface area to volume ratio. What issue does this present? As organisms grow larger, they're going to have a more difficult time exchanging nutrients, exchanging gases, exchanging heat or exchanging energy. And so you have to find ways to really, what's the term I want to use? You need to find ways to really maximize your surface area. Okay? Like if you're that Jill rabbit or Jack rabbit, having those big giant ears to work with heat exchange. Okay? Or elephants. You see this as well. That's one of the reasons elephants have such enormous ears, because they need to be able to exchange heat toward it.
How does that work with the heat exchange?
Oh, heat exchange? I mean, heat just goes, heat moves from an object where there's more energy to where there's less energy. And so heat is the average kinetic energy, right? Is the temperature. And so when you step on something that feels cold, it's because the molecules in your foot are vibrating at a higher rate than the molecules in the tile, and so some of that energy is going to move from your foot to the tile, and you feel that as coldness. Okay? And so if the air around you has less average kinetic energy than the atoms making up your tissues, you're going to lose energy to your surroundings.
So the jackrabbits basically push their heat to their ears?
A lot of it does go to their ears with all of that vasculature. Now, jackrabbits are only active, they're mostly crepuscular, which means active at dawn and dusk. And so they avoid the hottest times of the day, but still, moving around, they generate a lot of heat. And they need to get rid of a lot of that heat. Emma.
It's kind of like the coldness. So if you get frostbite and like your finger falls off, does it bleed? Or like if your finger falls off?
All the connection.
Or just stop? It's like, what is there? It's like flesh?
If it did bleed, it wouldn't be falling off.
Yeah, dead cells, necrotic cells, it turns black before it falls off. All the cells have died. And even, yeah, once those cells die, the vasculature there usually dies as well, the vessels there. Yeah. Okay, so what you find with this is as organisms grow larger, they find more creative ways to maximize surface area. Okay? Does that make sense?
Yes.
If you've got a single-celled organism, you've got no problem. I mean, you can't just be like a monstrous cell. But you've got no problem exchanging nutrients, exchanging gases, exchanging energy. When you start to build multicellular body plans, things get a little bit more complicated. And the larger an animal is, the more interesting ways it finds to solve this problem. And so here, Oh my goodness. Oh man. I didn't even ask you if I could erase this. It's all on the board and it's just... So this is just a general drawing of an animal. Okay, this is not representing any particular animal. This is just like, oh, okay, let's just give a rough estimate of an animal body plan. Okay, and so we're talking about, this is a complex multicellular form. We have to find really creative ways to maximize surface area. Okay, and so we need to maximize surface area for gas exchange. And so when you look at the lung tissue, look at that. I mean, it's all porous and it branches out, forms all these complex structures, maximizing the amount of surface area for gas exchange, for absorbing oxygen, getting rid of carbon dioxide. You see this? It kind of looks spongy. Looks spongy. Okay, it's a way of increasing surface area. And then you look at the lining of the small intestines, and you see all these finger-like projections. Does anyone know what these are called? The finger-like projections?
Villi.
Villi. They're called microvilli. And what it does is it really, it maximizes the amount of surface area you have in your intestines for nutrient exchange. And then you go and you look at here, and look at these vessels wrapping around the kidneys. You see all of that vasculature? Maximizing the amount of surface area for metabolic waste disposal. Okay? And so you have to start finding really creative ways to maximize surface area when you're going to have a complex form. And so here's just that small intestine, but a bit bigger. And so here we've got all of these microvilli. Just beautiful. I don't know why that happened, but it did. I was channeling a show I used to watch that was a YouTube only show, but we actually can't talk about it because it's, anyways, I can't in any way endorse the show. So here's the lung tissue, a zoomed in view of that. And again, all of this is an effort to maximize surface area for nutrient exchange, for gas exchange, for heat exchange, for ridding your body of metabolic waste, and that will come here with the vasculature surrounding the kidneys, okay? Just really maximizing the amount of surface area for all of these exchanges. And these are what you have to do if you're going to be a multicellular organism. Now, on top of that, organisms have what we call, this is important. This is really important. So, we're going to title this Surface Area to Volume Complication. And then I'm going to write something here that you should have already written down, but I'm going to make it official, so now you know I absolutely need to write this down. Larger organisms have lower surface area to volume ratios. And then right here I'm going to put makes exchanging materials difficult. Okay? We've already talked about this, but now it's written down. And we've already talked about how really complex multicellular organisms deal with this. They maximize. So can I put this as a subpoint? It still works if we're talking about how we address this issue, right? So can it still be here, or do I need to amplify it to its own point?
What? It's
Anyone?
fine.
Okay. Maximize surface area by creating folds, projections, etc. Right? So that's one way we can meet that. We can maximize surface area by creating folds in tissues, by creating projections like those microvilli in the intestines, etc. Right? Creating these really complex shapes. Complex shapes. Another thing that we can do, and we do, is bring fluids to every cell. That's another thing that really complex multicellular forms like animals, this is what they do. They bring fluids to every cell, and we call this fluid interstitial fluid. And so we basically allow every cell to experience fluid that will facilitate the movement of materials into and out of those cells. Okay? Emma.
Can you explain the settings?
To bring fluids to every cell?
Yeah, the maximize.
Oh, yeah. So if you're just going to maintain, I mean, so what's the shape of an individual cell typically? It's like a sphere, right? And so if you're going to become multicellular and you're just going to maintain that three-dimensional shape of a sphere, you're going to have some complications. Because the amount of surface area of each individual exposed, if each individual cell exposed, is going to be fairly low, right? So then what we're going to do is we're going to create some interesting shapes. We're going to create folds, projections, where we can maximize our surface area and we're not just this simple sphere. Even if you were roughly spherical, if you had an organism like, let's say humans were spherical, right? That would be cool. We were spherical, but we still had some limbs.
You can like roll around.
And you're like, Dr. Ingle, some humans are actually kind of spherical. But let's say you were like, you were like perfect bowling ball shape, right? With legs and arms. You would have a major surface area to volume problem in exchanging gases, exchanging nutrients, unless when you looked at the surface of that sphere, you saw all these really complex folds, okay, to really try to maximize the surface area. And that's what we're talking about here, is we're creating some unusually complex geometric shapes that will maximize our surface area. Because our typical geometric shapes, spheres, cylinders, cubes, all of these kinds of things, prisms, they're not going to maximize our surface area. We're going to have to create some really interesting...
So like an accordion.
Yeah, we're going to need to create some interesting structures where we're trying to get as much surface area as we possibly can.
So that's just within the cell?
Sometimes it's on individual cells. So when you look at the intestines, you see those villi. Oh, you know what? The big projections are called villi. And then when you look at individual cells, they have folds on their surface as well, and those are called microvilli.
Oh, so it's like...
So every villus, because villus is the singular of villi, so if you look at a villus, one individual projection on the lining of your intestines, if you look at that, that entire villus is going to be lined with epithelial cells. And every one of those epithelial cells has microvilli, more projections.
Do those have those on them?
It's like,
endless cycle?
Did y'all ever heard the song, there's a log, or there's a hole in the bottom of the sea? There's a log in the hole in the bottom of the sea. There's a bump on a log in the hole in the bottom of the sea. You've never done that song? Yeah, it's not really a country, it's just a song that kids do, kind of like, this is the song that never ends. This is the song that never ends. You don't know this? Yes, it goes on and on, my friends. Somebody started singing it, not knowing what it was, and they'll continue singing it forever just because this is the song that never ends, and it just keeps going. You think you don't know this? Or this is the song that gets on everybody's nerves. Everybody's nerves, everybody's nerves. This is the song that gets on everybody's nerves, and this is how it goes. This is the song that gets, and you just keep going and repeating. That's what this. Anyways,
why?
Right? It's because this is what you do as a kid to annoy the bus driver on field trips.
We don't have buses.
We did. What did we do?
Yeah,
Just
Tori.
Whatever we materials difficult. I don't know.
Okay,
The wording of it, make exchanges materials difficult.
Oh. You're right, that is grammatically irresponsible.
Make exchange, okay.
Was is shaking in this.
Makes exchanging materials difficult.
Okay.
Yeah.
I put
I'm sorry. That was grammatically irresponsible. Okay. All right. Any questions? Yes, Katie.
So if it has more surface area, then the volume stays the same though, but you increase surface area?
Yeah, I mean, the volume's going to grow a little bit with some of these complex shapes. Like if you start forming projections off of tissues, that projection has some volume.
Yeah.
But it has very little volume for the amount of surface area you're getting out of it.
Oh, okay.
Right?
So it's still gaining volume.
Yes.
It's not like.
But now you're doing it with shapes that are actually going to give you a lot more surface area for your increase in volume.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good question. Okay? Yeah, Michelle.
What do you mean by projections?
Projections are just growths, like outward growths.
Like your body? Is it like arm?
Yep. So like here's just my regular body, and now here's my projection. Look at this. Like right here, the only surface area of my arm is right here, but now here, my whole arm is surface area. You know? I can soak up that sun, get that vitamin D formed, keep myself from becoming anemic. Okay. May I erase this?
Yes.
Okay. Man, I feel like I'm on fire today. Man, I feel like you guys, I mean, other than like this grammatical irresponsibility, you guys might be getting the best of what I have to offer today. Yeah. How's it feel? Oh man, I cracked myself up. Oh, I'm so funny.
Nick, you're a monster.
Yeah, I consider myself to be in like the 90th percentile in funniness. You know? There might be like 10% of human beings funnier than I am, but that's it. That's like max.
Just like Kevin Hart, like...
He's so funny.
Okay.
That guy's like the 99th percentile.
I don't find
So-
comedians funny.
I watch every
Fluffy's a good one.
Thanks. So, what this table comes right out of your textbook, and it's in a way it's taking this idea of trying to maximize surface area to the next stage. So in addition to just having like complex projections, complex folds, what we can do is we can start developing organ systems that are going to individually carry out the tasks necessary for this organism's survival, right? So if you know you've got a surface area to volume problem for gas exchange, right? You're not going to have every single cell in the organism's body participating in absorbing oxygen for the entire organism. We're going to create some division of labor, and the way we do that is with organ systems. And so these are all organ systems that you're familiar with. You've learned these before. You know, we've got the digestive system. And so we're not going to make every cell in your body responsible for taking complex organic molecules and metabolizing it. We'll focus that in one place, and then every cell in your body will receive the benefits of that metabolism done in one place. And they won't get really complex organic molecules. They'll get things that are already partially digested and a lot easier to handle. Make sense? Okay? Or the circulatory system. We're not going to make every cell in your body responsible for ensuring proper gas exchange for the entire body. What we're going to do is we're going to focus that in an organ system, and then we're going to transport these gases around your body so that every cell can get the oxygen it needs. Every cell can get rid of the carbon dioxide it's producing as it's going through cellular respiration. But we're going to have these organ systems take care of a lot of that. The respiratory system, dealing with gas exchange. And so this is a really nice table. This is a really nice table. This is a table that if you were to like set aside the time necessary to really be able to work your way through this table without having this table in front of you, that would put you in a good position for the AP exam. And what I mean by that is you don't need to memorize it word for word, but if you could go through and pull any one of these organ systems and tell what makes them up and what they do, that'd be great. That would just be great. Okay? Okay? Any questions? We're almost to break time. I feel like y'all are doing well. Up until Kyle and Nick started chatting, we haven't had some conversations going in a while. And yeah, I'm innocent. It's all Nick. Okay. So what we need to do at this point now is we're going to start working backwards. So we've got these organ systems, and we need to start talking about what materials do organisms make that facilitate creating these organ systems. Okay? And so we need to start talking about different tissues. And so what a tissue is, so real quick, I'm going to do this over here, and I want to define tissue for you. So what a tissue is it's a collection of two or more cell types working together. I don't need that comma. Working together to do something. Something neither could alone. Alright, this is how you should think of tissues. When you hear the word tissue, you need to think about this. This is a collection of two or more cell types working together to do something neither cell could do alone. Okay? Neither cell could do alone. And that's what a tissue is. And from this thought of a tissue, we need to talk about different tissue types. And what are our different tissue types? Y'all remember this from a class you've done before? Oh, you scar tissue? I like that. That falls under one of our 4 main categories, but absolutely, scar tissue. I like that for several reasons. 1, like the ingenuity. 2, man, I just like scar tissue.
Chicks dig scars.
I dig scars. I love them. I think they're awesome.
A soft tissue one?
Ew.
Yeah, Mark.
That's just a gross word.
Like somehow in some way I have like 3 scars right around the same area of my arm.
Do you?
Like this arm has 3 just right around the elbow. I don't know if like apparently this elbow has 3 scars.
I mean, I almost want to have, elective surgery just to get scars, Like I want somebody to need one of my kidneys just so I can have a scar associated with removing this kidney. That way you're like swimming and you've got the scar here and you're like, you know what that scar's from? Save someone's life. Saved someone's life.
I'm sure someone out there is looking for a kidney.
I know. Okay.
For like the organ donation and then we'll like match it with family.
So one of these, yeah.
Okay, so for like organ donation, like I don't know how to word this question, but like can't they just have one organ that functions properly and still survive, or do they need 2?
Oh, it depends on what it is. The kidneys you can live on just one kidney.
Yeah, so if you have one that's not functioning, you can just like remove it and or do you, like if you're sick, do you need 2? I don't know if that makes sense.
You can work perfectly fine with just one.
Okay.
Yeah. So the first type, epithelial tissue. Epithelial tissue.
How are you gonna guess epithelium?
And so
Let me just pull up a word on my
any epithelial tissue, this type of tissue lines every surface of the body. External surfaces, internal surfaces. Okay, so your skin is epithelial tissue. The lining of your blood vessels, epithelial tissue. The lining of your gut, your esophagus, your stomach, your intestines, epithelial tissue. Okay? Anywhere where you have a surface, either on the inside or on the outside, you're going to find epithelial tissue there. Does a really great job of creating boundaries. Okay? Really great job of creating boundaries. It's just a wonderful tissue. It's just wonderful. It's a nice tissue. It's a nice tissue type.
Wait, so what's its like main?
Its main function is to form boundaries. Okay, to line surfaces. Form boundaries, line surfaces. You can think of it as it's the wall. It's the wall that everyone's talking about, right? What's that? No, scar tissue does not belong to this, and that's why scars look like scars and not like normal skin. But we'll get there. But you just hold on to that. Yeah, it replaces. So you just relax, Kyle. We'll get there. Okay, so here's a wolf, and man, it's just beautiful. This is a wolf, or as somebody from the South might say, a woof. Because I don't think they can do the LF.
That's probably what my family would say.
Yeah, a wolf. Yeah, I don't think they can do the LF. Wolf. Okay. Anyways, so this just shows you some of the different types of epithelial tissue and where you find them. Look at this, pseudostratified columnar epithelial.
That's a really cool name.
Yeah, it is a really cool name. And you find it in the trachea. And so, your question is, Dr. Engel, what do we need to know from this? And then what you need to know from this is that epithelial tissue comes in many forms, and that the form determines the function. The particular type of epithelial tissue you have is going to determine what that epithelial tissue is going to do. Other than that, you don't need to know anything for the AP exam. Because anything else, they would give you enough information to be able to deduce that, even if you didn't know that.
So we don't have to know the types?
No, but just to be able to know and anticipate that that you're going to find multiple types of epithelial tissue. Yeah, multiple types. But no, you're not going to have a question on the AP exam where it's going to tell you, we've got pseudostratified columnar epithelial tissue, where's the most likely place to find it? Because it's not an anatomy class. Now, it may tell you, pseudostratified columnar epithelial cells are really good at maximizing surface area, where at the same time efficiently moving materials through. And then it'll say, and the trachea is lined with these cells, so what function might they be playing in the trachea? And you're like, okay, the trachea is where you've got gas coming in, you're breathing in. The unfortunate thing is we live, and most people live in an area where you're breathing in more than just air, right? You're breathing in the dust that this gentleman's blowing around with this leaf blower. You're breathing in, pollution. You're breathing in everyone else's skin cells that they're just sloughing off of their body. And these epithelial cells in your trachea, you're like,
That's nice.
in most places, 90% of the dust is human skin cells. Human skin cells. You're like, that's really awesome. And then, the average mattress gains 20 pounds every 10 years. And it's because of skin cells, fluids that you lose while you're sleeping.
Fluids?
Sweat?
Sweat, and then sebum. Sebum, which is like what you secrete, where it keeps your surfaces moist and healthy, and it's because sweat's just for reducing cooling, but then sebum's like what just keeps your surface nice and moist and anyways.
It's like
That's gross.
It is gross.
moisturizes.
You should,
or like,
if you
it's
put
a
like a
natural
cover over
moisturizer.
that.
I mean, put that.
No, not your skin cells.
Bullshit.
You want to put like a water type cover?
Yeah.
Do it.
Will your skin cells still be in the mattress?
Will they still get to the mattress?
Yeah.
No. But they'll get to that little mattress cover, and then every now and again you can take that mattress cover off and you can wash it.
What if maybe
You're taking a water bath?
Would it be like dusty?
So dope.
A water.
Until they pop.
You know, like Edward's on your hand?
Okay.
Would it be dusty?
Bro, I could never sleep in a water bed.
Potentially. Okay.
Water beds are weird. I haven't tested the water.
Man, I start talking about you breathing in human skin cells, y'all get excited. Have all this stuff to talk about. Because really, we're all cannibals. It's just accidental.
What?
Do you know how many human skin cells you digest on a daily basis?
No, that's not one.
A lot. And you're like, I didn't even mean to. I was just breathing through my mouth.
What they all say.
Yeah. I didn't mean to be a cannibal. But then, hey, listen to this. Skin cells, they don't have nuclei. So are they really human cells? I don't know. We can have that conversation. So connective tissue. Kyle, this is scar tissue. Okay, so connective tissue, epithelial tissue, its main goal is to form boundaries, to define surface areas. But this is connective tissue. Connective tissue's main job is to bind tissues together and to provide support for tissues. Like if you've got a tissue that is under intense mechanical stress, like your intestines. You know how you move material through your intestines? Yeah, your intestines squeeze close and then relax and then squeeze close and then relax. It's called peristalsis. And that's intense mechanical pressure. So you need some connective tissue to keep that epithelial tissue from ripping apart. So you don't want your intestines ripping apart. I don't want that for you. You don't want that for yourself. Emma.
You know when you get a hernia, the wall, like, there's a hole in it? You know?
Yeah.
Is that like the tissue or is that something else?
Yeah, it's an issue. Usually it's an issue in a combination of muscle tissue and connective tissue. And oftentimes most hernias are the result of an error in development, and you just don't notice you have a hernia until later in life, but you've had it all along. And then some of them are due to tears, like where you tear a muscle layer, and then you lose kind of that barrier. Yeah. Okay, so connective tissue, what's their main role?
Bind
and support. Okay, bind and support. Connective tissues are interesting in that the bulk of the connective tissue is not cells. Okay, cells are part of connective tissue. The bulk of epithelial tissue is cells. It's epithelial cells. The bulk of connective tissue is extracellular matrix. Look, you can see that in the second point. Sparsely packed cells scattered throughout an extracellular matrix. This right here, of all the things to pick up from connective tissue, this is the big one. That most of your connective tissue is extracellular matrix. Okay? It's extracellular matrix. And then this tells you it can be fibers in a liquid environment, in a jelly-like environment, or in a solid environment. Solid. Okay? Do you like this? You like this, right? It's like our one day of anatomy and physiology in this course. Actually, we'll have another day of it as well. Okay? And so there are a few different fiber types that we find, and it'll be helpful to write these down. Okay? The three main fiber types that you find in connective tissue. First one, collagenous fiber. Have you heard of collagen?
Yeah.
Do any of you take a collagen supplement? It's really good for joints. Joints is where you have a lot of collagen, provides strength, but also some flexibility. And so, you find a lot of collagen in your joints. So as you start to get old, all of you are still very young, but as you start to get old, like I am, your joints won't feel like they did when you were younger. Yeah, Dr. Engel, just wait, because you're not even 50 yet. You're right. I'm thrilled. I'm excited for what my joints are gonna. And you don't know how old I am. I will be in May.
You told us.
And then so collagenous fibers, these are really good for strength and flexibility. Elastic fibers, these are just, something that's elastic, you can stretch it and it rebounds right to its original position. So you find a lot of these elastic fibers in places that are constantly stretched. So you find some of these in joints, but you find some of these in other places where it's not really a joint, it's just a tissue that it's constantly being stretched out. Okay, and then the last type, reticular fibers, these just basically anchor. They anchor connective tissue to other tissue types. Okay, they anchor connective tissue to other tissue types. You're going to like the next slide, but I'm not going to give it to you until after we take ourselves a little break. I need a break, you need a break, we all need a break. Alright? So we're going to take about a 3-minute break. It's currently 9 o'clock. We will reconvene at 9:03.
Oh my god. So why'd you get up?
Yeah, but me being on point today is really helping you out, right?
Wait, go back.
Go back.
Slept for the last 6 hours. I'm good.
I don't know the whole waking up. Oh yeah.
It takes me 13 alarms to get up. I have to do every minute. Mine just won't wake up.
Every minute? I don't want that.
Every minute.
Pictures. Okay. Picture number 1. Okay. Shh. And just like when we saw the picture of the different types of epithelial tissue, you don't need to know all these specifics of connective tissue. Not for this class. What you need to know is that there are different types of connective tissues that serve different functions. But again, connective tissue serves to bind and support. Bind and support. So bone and cartilage, these are very supportive connective tissues. Right? They're the kind of connective tissues that's going to have a box of Kleenex and a shoulder to cry on. Yeah.
Is fiber like only regarding like
You're talking about like dietary fiber?
no like the fibers we just went over like
Those are just the 3 fibers that we find in the extracellular matrix of connective tissue.
Oh, it's only connective tissue?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yep. I thought you were talking about like dietary fiber. Most dietary fiber is cellulose from plants that you can't digest, so it just kind of bulldozes its way. Yeah, bone, cartilage, those are connective tissues.
Bone's a connective tissue.
Yeah, adipose tissue, fat.
Bone and tissue.
That's good stuff. That's good stuff.
How is bone? It's shh. Remember with connective tissues, we said connective tissues is mainly what? Not cells, but it's mainly what? Extracellular matrix. And so
That's
bone,
hard.
it's extracellular matrix and it's hardened with calcium. Yep. I know, it is interesting. Okay. So far we've got epithelial tissue, we've got connective tissue, our third main tissue type, muscle tissue. Emma.
So for the bone, like you know people who have very brittle bones, is that just like the bones aren't hardened with calcium?
Yeah, the two main causes of that are that, yeah, the matrix is not hardened properly, and then the other one is that you've got an issue in your bone cells that are building that matrix. The most common cause is that you just aren't building the matrix properly, and it's usually a calcium deficiency. Or the inability to make vitamin D, and so that actually works a great deal towards hardening tissues. Reabsorbing vitamin D. Okay, so the next one, muscle tissues. And we only have 3 types of muscle tissue. Can we go back?
Did you not even let us write down this like contracting in response to nerve signals?
Yep. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So epithelial tissue, great for building boundaries, great for lining surfaces. Connective tissue, great for supporting structures, holding things in place. Muscle tissue, great for contracting, which means you're going to create some force, like this. Look at this. It's impressive, right?
Okay, that thing with the finger where you go.
All right, are you talking about this one?
Like when you have like that.
Oh my gosh!
So
So 90-degree angle.
How do you do that? No, but look at straight Kyle. How do you do that? That's awesome. I hate that.
Oh, that's all muscular.
That's so gross. No, you can do it.
How do you
Weirdo.
Oh, wait, I did it with that one.
No, I guess that's where you do your fingers.
It's because you don't have
Okay. So epithelial tissue, again, great for forming boundaries. Connective tissue, great for holding things in place and supporting tissues. Muscle tissue creates the force necessary to move. Any movement you do is carried out by muscle tissue. Okay? This movement, right?
Yeah.
The adduct, abduct, but that's an anatomy and physiology term. Okay? We have 3 different types of muscle tissue. We've got skeletal muscles. Those are associated with what? It's in the name.
Skeleton.
The skeleton. So that's this number right here. Oh, look at this. Do you see this? That's all skeletal muscle right there.
Phalanges.
You want to talk about what muscles do this?
No.
It's the extensor. It's the extensor digitalis. Yeah, extensor digitalis. Okay, and then smooth muscle. What's getting our intestines to contract and relax that peristalsis? That's all smooth muscle.
Is that like breathing like this?
Breathing is your diaphragm, and that's a skeletal muscle. Like when you...
So what would be an involuntary breathing?
You're like your intestines.
Oh yeah, your intestines. The movement of materials through your intestines. When your vessels dilate or open up to increase blood flow, that's done by smooth muscles and is involuntary. And then cardiac muscle, this number right here. Oh yeah, calm as a cucumber, baby. You know? You're like, Dr. Eagle, he's all hyped up. I bet his heart rate's like 120. Nope, 65.
That's way too low.
That's not way too low.
Not way too low.
That's proper resting heart rate.
Really?
I thought it was 68.
It's
No,
Mine's like 120 when I go to the doctor.
like
Yeah.
beats per minute?
Yeah.
Mine's
bad.
50.
Yeah, that's not bad. Your resting your resting heart rate should be pretty low. 50 is fine. Can I go back?
Yeah, can you?
Why are you doing? You don't have to write. See, this is why I stopped doing slides in the first place. You don't have to write everything.
But you were talking and I was trying to listen. I can't do this.
We respect you.
You do. That would be a great thing to preach to yourself every day, because I feel like. You're like, Dr. Ingo, I know we need to respect you, but we just can't. We just can't.
I have to listen to you and I can't.
You've accomplished something I couldn't do, so good job.
Yeah. Oh, to get them to actually admit that?
It's to respect you.
Oh, I don't know if that's.
I respect you, Dr.
I don't know if that's happened yet, Dr. Phillips.
Oh, okay, well these are surprising things.
Okay, so here's just an image showing you the different places where you find these muscle tissues. Cardiac muscle tissue, you only find it in the heart. It is the Cadillac of muscle tissues. Smooth muscle tissue you find all over. Lining organs, lining vessels, and then skeletal muscle tissue, you find that all over as well. Got muscles in your face, allowing you to smile and frown and talk and chew your food. Okay, one more tissue type. Yeah, Emma.
Okay, so like what is it to, because the cardiac muscles only like
In the
one
heart.
part, so like why can you use just normal muscles like why is there all one specific?
Why do you need a special type of skeletal muscle? Yeah, it's a good question. The number of times that muscle contracts without ever relaxing would destroy skeletal muscle. Yeah, would destroy it. And so cardiac muscle tissue, the individual cells are anchored together in ways that skeletal muscle cells are not. And that's because your heart is basically going to be, on average, 60 times a minute for, on average, 78.5 years. Okay? It's a lot of contractions. It's a lot of contractions. All right. One more tissue type. Nervous tissue. So epithelial tissue, great at making boundaries, lining surfaces. Connective tissue, great at anchoring things together, supporting. Muscle tissue, great at moving things. Nervous tissue, great at sending electrical signals. It's just great at sending electrical signals. You want to send a signal from your brain to the muscles that are going to move your finger? Guess what? Chemical signals aren't going to do it very quickly, right? Your brain would need to release a chemical signal into your bloodstream. You'd have to wait until your blood went over to your fingers, and by the time you pulled your fingers together to catch that ball somebody threw to you, that ball would be long gone. It would have already smacked your hand, probably broke the bones in the middle of your hand.
They send signals electrically.
Yeah, oh yeah. Oh yeah. So what nervous tissue does, nervous tissue is it sends electrical signals that move much faster than chemical signals. Also, way better focused, very accurate and precise. Chemical signals are not accurate and precise. You basically dump that chemical signal into the bloodstream and everything gets to know about it. Right? So the difference between chemical signaling and electrical signaling, chemical signaling is like posting something on your social media. Right? And everybody knows about it. At least the 12 people that follow you know about it. Right? Versus shooting somebody a text message. 700? It's not bad. It's not bad. Versus an electrical signal would be like sending somebody a text message. First of all, you know it's going to go right to them because they always have their phone in their hands, right? Or they're a Trinity student and their phone's put away somewhere.
It doesn't text back.
It
takes them like 15 minutes average response time.
Average response time?
Average response time.
That's still not bad.
15 minutes? Most people are quicker than 15 minutes. That's average. Sometimes
well, maybe
sometimes you just won't respond.
Did you ever consider that it's just you and everybody else gets an immediate response?
Maybe just people don't want to talk.
Because he's your best friend, right?
That's my brother.
All right.
Unless it's like.
So this is our last tissue type, and again, nervous tissue exists to send very focused, very fast signals. Yeah, Michelle. Glial cells? These are just supportive cells. They protect the neurons. So a lot of times when you look at neurons, so here's like an individual neuron. You see this? This is a neuron, an individual nerve cell. But when you actually look at this, it's surrounded by what looks like a blanket, and that blanket is a glial cell. And it's protecting it and nourishing it. Well, it's protecting it physically just by being in that place. And then the other one is Michelle asked a really good question that you all are going to miss the answer to. She asked, how do these glial cells, because it says right here, glial cells help nourish and insulate the neurons. And she asked, how do they do that? And so one thing they do is just surround them, and so they protect them from mechanical stress, right? Because they're going to surround it almost like a blanket. And another thing is they make glucose. So neurons can only metabolize glucose. They can't metabolize anything else. They can't metabolize any other sugar. They can't metabolize protein, fats, anything. And so the glial cells sometimes need to take fats, convert them into glucose, and then feed the neurons. Yeah. Okay. It's pretty good. That's pretty good. That's our 4 tissue types. So if you had a question on the AP exam that referenced one of these 4 main tissue types, you're going to have an idea of what these tissue types exist to do.
That's good. And then we're going to be able to write down our 5 to 6, 3 to 6, 5, 3 to 5 things that we know about.
Yeah, I will tell you this right now. I need to tell you this right now for the exam that you're going to have on Friday. The very first question you're going to get.
Wait, hold on. This Friday?
Yeah, this Friday. This very Friday. The very first question you're going to have, the topic is just data representation. That's the topic. The entire question is based on, here are the data, how would you represent them and analyze those data? What graphs would you use? Don't do a pie chart. Don't ever. Don't ever do it. Well, this one, it actually tells you what graph it wants you to draw. You don't get a choice.
Oh, it does?
Yeah, it says, letter A, it says draw blank graph to illustrate these data.
Pie chart?
So we don't have to pick.
You don't. But the first one, I just want to tell you this. So the topic is going to be data representation, and still go through that same thing. What are 3 to 5 things you know about data representation? No pie charts. No pie charts ever. Right? Okay. All right, any questions on our 4 tissue types?
$5.
Yeah.
exam.
Yeah.
So is that like based on all the thing we learned like from last year?
Oh yeah, it's everything. And that's how it's been. Is we're just taking AP exams now. And so I went through this one, and you were equipped to answer all 8 of the essay questions.
We're equipped.
All 8, but I took one off because it was a little tricky, and I figured it would be good for you time-wise to just have something, because Dr. Phillips is going to give you 90 minutes. You have 90 minutes, which we have a 100-minute long class. You have 90 minutes, and, you know. Anyways, you're going to enjoy it. Okay, so write down this question.
Is this chapter 40?
This is still chapter 40, you bet. Okay, this question is, how do we signal long distance? So if your brain wants your body to do something...
You forgot the week. I know, it was over. You're kind of off today. This is the second time this is. You've been pretty good.
Man, that really hurts, because I was just talking about earlier that you're getting about the best of what I have to offer. And then here's Tori like, oh, Dr. Engel, like, you're a little disappointing today. You know, I walked in here, I even came early. I came early and I ate breakfast in front of you, thinking that it was going to really, like, just inspire you.
Never good enough for Tori.
How do we signal long distance? So your brain wants something in your body to do something. Okay? Your brain wants something in your body to do something. How do we do this? Way number 1. Send a chemical signal. Shh. Way number 1. See, I knew Dr. Phillips was a little bit too quick to assume that I had y'all's respect.
I heard him laugh too.
You do.
You're like, Dr. Engel, we respect you, but not enough to end our conversation. Sorry. This is more important.
Hey, I didn't say it.
This is more important. You know what? I will say that there are some of you in this class that I don't think I've ever heard you having a conversation while I was teaching. There are others in this class that I don't think I've ever gone to class without hearing you have at least a handful of side conversations. Okay, so way number 1, send a chemical signal. And the times that this is going to be really helpful, this is going to be useful when several parts are required. So if you need several things in the body to do something in response, chemical signals are going to be wonderful. Like if you need your heart rate to increase, your vessels to dilate, your respiratory rate to increase, okay? Your brain to think that you're just invincible. These are the kinds of responses when, like, you almost get hit by a car and you feel that adrenaline rush. Yeah. Your muscles tense up. You're like, man, I think I could jump over a mountain. Yeah, you feel like the uncle from Napoleon Dynamite. Like, I could jump over that
I
mountain.
want to see that movie.
You've never seen it?
I gotta go for Pop.
Oh man,
I can throw a football over that thing.
2 weekends ago, I watched a documentary on what every character from that movie has done following that movie. And it was really fascinating.
I thought that guy, he lives in San Diego.
The uncle?
No,
Oh, Napoleon Dynamite.
He's so
Okay.
funny.
So, this is one option. Send a chemical signal, and if you need a lot of various parts to do something, this is a great signal to send. Okay, the other option, send an electrical signal. Send an electrical signal. And when is this going to be great?
When you need a quick response.
Yeah, useful when you need a quick response. When you need a specific quick response. And notice I put a comma there indicating that I am using specific as an adjective. We need a specific response and we need it to happen fast. Oh, you can see. Or you,
It's a specific, quick response.
specific, comma, quick response.
Indicating that it was an adjective.
Yeah, indicating that this specific, we're talking about a specific response, and we're talking about a quick response. And so I want to show you a beautiful slide. Oh my goodness. May I erase this?
Yes, you may. You can erase the whole thing.
I can start at the top. Yeah, okay, so I'll start at the top.
No one cares.
Don't erase the usefuls.
Erase all the
useless. I need my pen.
I'm having fun today.
The last one. Erase the useful first.
Even
Look at him right. He's like.
Erase the useful first.
even with y'all's hyper criticism.
We're good.
Oh my gosh, he's so writing his bike. I saw him writing his bike yesterday in school.
Oh, he's so cool.
I saw him writing his bike.
He was on his bike, he was like,
Yeah, I know that's what I saw yesterday. I was driving.
he's so serious.
He's creepy.
Okay, look at this. Signaling by hormones. These are chemical signals. Some cell secretes this hormone, gets into the bloodstream, and basically hits everywhere. Hits everywhere. Now, some things aren't going to have the proper receptor to bind that ligand, and so they won't respond, right? Because step one in being on the receiving end of a chemical signal is what, again? Receptor binds the ligand. So you fill your bloodstream full of this ligand, and only cells that make the receptor for that ligand can respond. So yes, it goes everywhere, but not everything can respond to that ligand, right? So when is this nice? When is the chemical signal nice? Somebody, when is this useful?
When you need to go to specific.
A specific, quick.
No, that's when electrical signals. When you need multiple parts required in your response.
That's what I said.
Why do I even bother writing things on the board?
Well, I said it.
And then on the right, it's the electrical signal. You need a.
I'll do this again.
Oh, I see.
Why is this? When is this useful?
When you need a target critical area.
Yes, when you need multiple parts required in that response. When is this useful to send an electrical signal? When you need a quick and very specific response. Look at this. This signal is sent and only this cell is receiving the signal. That's it. Look at here. Everything's receiving the signal as long as it has what? Notice these. What do these have that these don't?
Chemicals.
What is that?
Look at this.
Receptors.
The receptors for that ligand. You see that? These cells have the receptor for the ligand. Do you see it?
Yeah, I see it.
Can you see? Oh man. Can you see it?
I see it.
And these cells, they don't have the receptor for that ligand. So they can't respond. But look at this. The signal was sent to a specific cell.
That's really cool.
Like your flexor digitalis. So you can do this. And you're like, Dr. Engel, why would I ever want to do that? And it's like if you're left-handed and you want to go to a shooting range and just destroy a target.
Oh,
Okay? You're like, why else would I ever want to do that? I don't know, maybe both of your thumbs are broken and you still need to text. Right? You're like, why would we do this? I just do this. And then you can test like my dad does all the time.
Here's my middle fingers. I use my ring and
that's awful.
Man, you should see how my dad texts. It's wonderful. I hope he listens to this recording. My dad texts like this, and he gets his whole body involved. He's like... It's so great. Oh, man. I love it.
My mom texts like this.
Warms my heart.
Texts on her family.
Okay.
Just Snapchat shit with Kyle's mom. It's great.
Okay, we are currently through 24 of the 48 slides we need to cover today, and we've got 12 minutes left. Yep. Yep. Okay. Yeah.
You use this pen.
All right. That is exactly half. What? What does an animal do when its environment changes? What does an animal do? And we're not talking about like long term. We're not talking about like, I don't know, the average temperature increases a little bit every year, so after 10 years it's significantly warmer. Sorry about my question mark, I ran out of space, so it just became a squiggle. Actually, I'm not sorry about that. You know what? I don't care. Tori.
They die.
That would, I guess, be one of the options, but that's not an option we're going to present.
Emma called me stupid.
Emma.
They die.
Emma did not call you stupid, she called your response. Stupid. This is a
hostile environment.
This is a hostile learning
environment.
Hey, I have a question for you. Do you want us to work through the reconciliation process in an official way? Do you want us to do like a peace? Do you want to do like a peacemakers session and get all of the parents involved? And we can get Mrs. Cat out and Mrs. Macedo involved as well. Listen, you tell me what you want, I'll make it happen.
I want $1 million.
I can.
Something with a knees.
Okay.
Go convince them.
There are basically two main options. And leave some space between the two. Yeah.
Natural selection.
Oh, so that's talking about long term. This is short term changes. So again, these are short term changes. Long term, yeah, natural selection's going to.
What do you mean by short term?
Short term, like you wake up in the morning, it's 45 degrees. 2 hours later, it's 75 degrees.
Oh.
Right? So what do you do? What do you do in response to that short term change?
You change your
adapt.
The first thing you do, you conform.
Isn't that adapt? No, don't conform.
Never conform.
Okay, first thing you do, you conform. And so here you basically match the environment. You essentially match the environment. So if it warms up, you allow your body to warm up. Tori.
But see, you said it wasn't over a long period of time, so how did their bodies know to make that quick adjustment?
I mean, they don't. They just conform to it. They're not adjusting to anything. If your environment gets warmer, you absorb more heat out of your environment.
I thought that takes time to adjust and change, which is why I figured if it was over a short time, they die. But if it was
We'll see in a minute, because you can address external conditions. So if it's heat, so if this change in the environment is heat, right? This is all going back to our change in the environment. So if we're talking about heat, you heat up / cool down with the environment. Oh wow. With the environment. And we call these kinds of animals, we call them ectothermic poikilotherms.
I did not like that.
I did not like that.
Did you say that was aggressive?
Yeah. Is that an E?
How do you say it?
Poikilotherms.
Is that an E or an O?
What?
Is that an E or an O?
Where? Oh.
Get it? O?
That was funny. Well carried.
Ectothermic poikilotherms. Okay, these are animals that are basically, they're just going to match whatever the environmental conditions are. This is not us. We are not conformers. We are not conformers. We're stubborn. Even at the physiological level, we're stubborn.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's one option. The other one. Regulate.
Body temperature.
Internal
Internal body temperature.
processes.
Do we still have to leave space in between them?
No.
But there's only two, right?
Yes. Sorry, now I'm being aggressive with everything.
I like it.
Hang on just a moment. Regulate internal processes to maintain homeostasis. That's right. Look at that, bringing in our song. Tori, what can I do for you?
Okay,
You
so...
put two twos.
Hey, now you're slipping.
Okay,
He's
so...
texting the race.
Keep asking, Tori.
So like you say that like animals like conform and all that stuff and they're like better with that and we're more stubborn.
Yeah.
Does that mean like if any species would be able to like live on a hotter planet like Mars or like just for example?
Well, there are environmental extremes that we can't regulate for. Like if you go into somewhere that's -40 without external coverings, you're gonna die. I was gonna say you're cooked, but then it's really cold and that sounded weird. I mean, you're just, it depends on how quickly, it really depends on your energy stores. I would survive that longer than you would.
But an animal would live longer?
Listen, I'm just saving up for a rainy day here.
We're living the long.
I'm just making it to where if we have to start rationing, I can distribute my rations to my family, you know? I did some calculations once when I took biochemistry. I was able to do certain calculations based on my percent body fat on how long I could survive starvation before I passed a point of no return. And we did this for everyone in the class. The average human it's about between 40 and 45 days.
We can go.
Not in terms of what I have saved up for a rainy day. I might be the average American, but not the average human. Yeah.
You're saying that you could go.
The average human can go between 40 and 45 days without a single bite of food and still recover from it if you start eating it. Yeah, you have to just. Yeah. 40 to 45 days. Now some of you would be below that. I did some calculations based on my percent body fat. 97 days. 97 days.
See, some people call me bad. I'm saying for a rainy day. You know what I'm saying? Yes, sir.
That's so bad.
Yeah, Emily. This was good. Go ahead.
If you like survive off any liquid, this has to be water. Like, can you just stop drinking water?
Like, so if you just never drank water again and all you drank was Diet Coke?
Yeah.
Sure. My dad hasn't drank a sip of water in 57 years.
No, that's not true.
No.
What?
I mean, he does drink water occasionally, but I would say that my dad goes a week at a time without a drop of water. And all he drinks is Diet Coke.
Like 2 weeks.
Okay. So, the other response, you regulate internal processes to maintain homeostasis. And what do we call these animals? I'm going to write it off to the side because they don't have any space. You put it right below it. No! Ecto means temperature from the outside. If you're changing the internal processes, Rick. Endothermic homeotherms. I'm sorry, Rick, that was a little aggressive. I was a little aggressive, and your parents may listen to this recording.
They won't, I promise.
I want you to know Mr. and Mrs. Roberts, Ron and Shannon, right?
Yep.
Ron and Shannon, I apologize for talking to your son that way.
I was
Okay, so we call these animals, again, if we're talking about temperature, we call these endothermic homeotherms. Endothermic indicating that most of the important processes associated with body temp are internal, our metabolic rate. Okay, what we're doing in response to that. And that we're going to maintain a narrow range of values. Narrow. Check this out. Oh my gosh! Why do I keep doing this? Okay, may I erase this?
Yes.
Oh my goodness. I gotta hurry. There's very little time. So much to do.
You have like a minute.
I know.
Goes through 40 slides.
And so here,
It's an honor.
this largemouth bass, what would we call this based on, look, here's its body temp. Here's this is an ectothermic poikilotherm. As the external environment heats up, so does it. It just conforms to those environmental conditions. What about a river otter?
Endothermic homeoform.
Endothermic homeotherm. It's maintaining the same internal body temperature. Regardless, you had a question like this on your AP exam, where you had a fill-in-the-blank question, and it was about a bird in flight, and it said, what would its approximate body temperature be? And you all went crazy. Like a bird's, it already told you in the question that a bird's an endotherm. Like it's an endothermic homeotherm. I know.
How many slides did we get done?
27.